It was just a week ago that Ben Montgomery celebrated his 22nd birthday. Now his family finds themselves laying him to rest. The police assure the grieving family that they are working day and night to solve this case. "This is the one that keeps me awake at night," Homicide Sergeant Brandon Watkins confesses. He reveals that Montgomery was shot while courageously doing everything he could to protect the other people inside his apartment. In his eyes, Ben is a hero. Watkins references the Bible verse, "Greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends." That's essentially what this young man did. Among the memories shared, a gentle presence stands by. Thomas, Ben's loyal dog, offers a semblance of comfort in the wake of tragedy. It's a challenge to get up sometimes, but the bond they shared is palpable. Ben was the kind of guy who, if he saw someone in need, would walk up and ask, "Hey man, what do you need?" His kindness was woven into the fabric of his character. In the quiet aftermath, his wife reflects on their loss, lamenting that there's nothing they can do to bring him back. After serving as a trooper for 34 years, his father yearns for justice. As the details of the case remain murky, his father expresses his discontent. He doesn't like the fact that he retired with this being an open case. Ronnie Leatherman, the lead detective on Ben Montgomery's case, feels the weight of this unresolved tragedy. Leatherman recalls his complete retirement from the Tulsa Police Department after 22 years. He dedicated more effort to Ben's case than to any other, noting the extensive interviews, lab tests, and search warrants executed. Despite his tireless efforts, he acknowledges that it's not about him. It's about Ben and his family receiving the answers they deserve. In a familiar exchange, he greets Lacey, a new addition to the homicide unit. They share a moment reflecting on the complexities of the case as Lacey seeks insight from her experienced colleague. Lacey, who joined the homicide unit after 12 years with Tulsa PD, acknowledges that she wasn't on the force when this tragedy occurred. Eager to delve into the investigation, she expresses her desire to understand everything. As the details unfold, the urgency of the night becomes apparent. "I don't know," echoes from the chaos. A frantic call for medical assistance reveals the dire situation unfolding within an apartment. "Please fire medical, there's someone with a gun here," a panicked voice implores. The urgency thickens as another voice pleads for help, revealing the gravity of the situation. "Ma'am, where are you?" the dispatcher inquires. The apartment becomes a scene of desperation. "I'm in the bathroom hiding," comes the trembling response. Amidst the chaos, the dispatcher assesses the situation. "There's a gunshot victim," she reports. "I've got lots of help on the way," she assures, though the gravity of the situation weighs heavily. The scene inside the apartment reveals a tragic reality. "Everybody, go inside, please," a voice commands as panic ensues. "It's my fault, I take full responsibility," someone laments, the weight of guilt heavy in the air. Brandon receives a call that sends ripples of dread through the night. A murder has been reported down in South Tulsa at an apartment complex. It sounds like a party turned deadly. Tragically, Ben has been taken to the hospital where he succumbs to his injuries. He is identified as 22-year-old Benjamin Montgomery, a young man who was born and raised in Tulsa. In high school, he excelled in both basketball and football. He leaves behind a loving family, a father, mother, and 2 older sisters. The victim's connection to law enforcement adds a poignant layer to the case. As investigators prepare to confront the family, they know this will be a tough situation for everyone involved. The shooting took place in his second-story apartment where the investigation begins. Body cam footage reveals the chilling moment of discovery. Ben was found on the ground in his living room, having been shot once in the chest. By the time help arrived, he had already been taken to the hospital. In the shadows of the breezeway leading up to the apartment, investigators meticulously collected evidence. 2 swabs were taken, one from the ground and the other near a barbecue grill. Among the chilling discoveries, Ben's DNA was found under his fingernails. Even after isolating Ben's DNA, traces remained that could be matched against potential suspects if needed. The DNA recovered from Ben's fingernails would serve as a crucial link in the investigation. Meanwhile, the focus shifted to the witnesses. A group of 6 teenagers had gathered to celebrate a birthday for one of their friends. As lead detective Ronnie Leatherman continued to work the crime scene, Detective Max Wright approached the witnesses. He knew he needed them to recount the events of that fateful night. Max leaned in, asking about the apartment where they had gathered. One witness, a young man, recalled meeting Ben just recently at an after-party, their friendship blossoming in the hours that followed. He remembered arriving around 8 p.m., the group enjoying drinks and laughter. As the night wore on, they decided to play beer pong in the back bedroom, the excitement palpable among 4 players and 2 onlookers. The atmosphere was charged with youthful energy. Around 11 or 11:30 p.m., everything changed in an instant. A loud bang echoed through the apartment, but the group dismissed it as noise from outside. Curiosity piqued, Ben opened the door, only to face a nightmare. A figure, a black man wielding a gun, entered the space, shattering their carefree night. Panic ensued as Ryan, the witness, recalled that everyone was just joking around moments before. In a heroic rush, Ben leaped forward, tackling the intruder and catching him off guard. But the chaos escalated. In the struggle, Ben was shot, and the intruder fled. Ryan's heart sank as he noticed Ben's expression shift, a look of confusion washing over his face. Blood began to seep from Ben's neck, a grim sign of the violence that had erupted. "I've been shot," Ben gasped, collapsing to the ground. In a desperate attempt to save him, Ryan rushed to the bathroom, grabbing a towel to apply pressure to the wound. Max pressed for a description of the suspect. The witness recalled a tall, slender man with short dreadlocks, his face etched in memory. "Would you recognize him again?" Max probed. "Yes," the young man affirmed, the weight of the moment heavy on his chest. "Do you think he intended to rob you all?" Max continued, seeking clarity amidst the chaos. "I can't say for sure," Ryan replied, his brow furrowed. "But I heard one of Ben's friends mention an earlier altercation with him outside. Tonight was only my second time meeting Ben." With urgency, Detective Ronnie Leatherman introduced himself to another witness. "Tell me what happened," he demanded, eager to piece together the fragmented story. The witness spoke of his friendship with Ben, explaining that he had been crashing at a neighbor's place. He recalled the moments leading up to the shooting, deciding to take a walk around 11:30 p.m. Just before the chaos erupted, two men had caught his attention, their car parked outside with dome lights shining eerily. As he prepared to leave, those lights flashed on, stirring a mix of curiosity and unease within him. Assuming they were merely cruising through the neighborhood, he proceeded to his car. But as he settled into the driver's seat, the situation took a sinister turn. Two men approached him, striking him violently in the back of the head. Before he knew it, he was dragged from his vehicle, a gun pressed threateningly to his temple. "Where's the weed?" they demanded. In a moment of sheer terror, he revealed it was in the apartment, his heart pounding as he feared for his life. "Yes, I've sold some from there," he admitted, his voice trembling. "It's just a few bags." The men forced him up the stairs, and dread settled in his stomach. He felt as though he was being led to his execution. Panic surged as he fumbled for the key to the door, the assailants menacingly promising death if he failed. As the night unfolded, a witness found himself drawn to Ben's apartment, compelled by the presence of others. The door stood slightly ajar, a silent invitation to the unfolding nightmare. As he entered, he felt the tension crackle in the air. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with fear as chaos erupted. Shots fired into the air shattered the stillness, and Ben's bravery shone through as he lunged at one of the assailants. In that moment, time stood still as a gunshot rang out, and the horror of Ben's fate became painfully clear. Amidst the chaos, the witness's heart sank. The image of his friend, once vibrant and alive, now marred by violence, lingered in his mind. Regret seeped into the air as he struggled to process the trauma before him. Questions loomed as the investigation pressed on. The night had been intended for a simple meeting regarding a marijuana sale, a plan that had spiraled into tragedy. The details of that fateful evening began to unravel. The cousin, an elusive figure in the shadows, owed a debt for past transactions. Yet the witness could only recall vague details, a fleeting description that could hold the key to understanding the night's chaos. The interrogation pressed forward, seeking clarity amidst the turmoil. The location of the previous sale, a seemingly innocuous setting, now felt steeped in menace. A new layer of the investigation unfolded, revealing the potential connections to the crime. The car involved, a newer Chevy Malibu, became an important piece of the puzzle. The witness's recollections painted a picture of the suspects, yet uncertainty clouded their identities. Descriptions were hazy, but the fear left its mark indelibly. One suspect stood out, a light-skinned black male with loose curls. The details felt crucial yet incomplete. The witness's anxiety escalated as he contemplated the fate of his friend, praying for a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. Amid the chaos of the night, the weight of loss hung heavy in the air. A voice trembled with emotion as the reality of Benjamin Montgomery's death settled in. Concern seeped through as he expressed worry for those grappling with the tragic news. Despite the frantic efforts to save him, the hospital's doors could not unlock life. A haunting confession echoed in the background, shifting blame away from the grieving hearts, insisting it was the actions of others that led to this tragedy. In the midst of anguish, thoughts of a grieving father emerged, a man now robbed of his son's future. The painful truth resonated, as Benjamin had stood in the line of fire, taking a bullet meant for another. The emotional toll of the event would leave scars on all who witnessed it. Each person would navigate their grief in their own way. But the impact of that night would ripple through their lives, forever altering their perceptions of safety and trust. The gravity of the situation urged those left behind to seek solace. It was a reminder that vulnerability was not a weakness, but a necessary step towards healing. In the wake of despair, the conversation turned towards the nature of the crime that shattered lives. This incident had begun as a simple weed transaction gone horrifically wrong. Laughter and celebration had abruptly turned into chaos as masked figures burst through the door. In mere moments, lives had been irrevocably altered. The stark reality of guilt weighed upon the robbery victim. The haunting question lingered. How could one reconcile their role in such a tragic event? The burden of conscience was a heavy one to bear. As grief enveloped those connected to the tragedy, questions of responsibility lingered in the air. The weight of perceived culpability became a haunting specter, as the realization dawned that Benjamin had been caught in a web of betrayal and violence. Determined to piece together the puzzle, detectives sought out the man whose apartment had served as refuge for the robbery victim. Tracking him down proved easy, and they arrived at his door ready to uncover his insights. Detective Ronnie Leatherman introduced himself, his voice steady amid the tension. He sought clarity from the neighbor, eager to uncover the truth behind the drama that had erupted next door. The neighbor recounted his alibi, revealing he had been at work since early that morning. His casual admission about selling small amounts of weed to acquaintances hinted at a deeper network of potential suspects. The suspect's relative was questioned about his cousin's whereabouts. Despite the urgency of the situation, he feigned ignorance about how to reach him, forcing the detectives to probe deeper. In the dim light of the police station, the detective inquired about the suspect's Snapchat account, urging him to reveal his conversations. The suspect's face shifted as he pulled up a video sent by his cousin, hinting at a deeper connection to the case. The investigation took a turn as a witness recounted the presence of a man brandishing a gun. Clearly, this individual was connected to a world where firearms were commonplace. It was suspected that he held knowledge of his cousin's potential involvement in the events leading up to the shooting. Those responsible for the shooting appeared to have targeted a specific individual, one known for dealing marijuana. The witness's connection to this cousin was tenuous, relying on communication through Snapchat. He emerged as a significant lead, compelling detectives to pursue him while Detective Leatherman sought out the cousin. Detective Riding prepared to scour the crime scene for surveillance cameras, hopeful that footage of the beige sedan mentioned by the robbery victim would surface. There was uncertainty surrounding the stripper who was the father of a child involved, leading to the question of whether anyone had yet approached him. The detective's response was clear. He insisted on handling that matter personally. The ominous knock at 3 a.m. brought with it an unsettling feeling. As a trooper, he understood the weight of the news he was about to deliver. No officer ever wishes to relay the devastating news that another officer's child has died. The morning Benjamin's life was stolen away marked the darkest day of his mother's existence. She clutched photographs of her son, captured throughout his childhood, an array of memories from junior high to high school. Among the cherished images was one of Benjamin on the day he welcomed a Great Pyrenees puppy named Zeus into his life. He was a young man full of love for his pets, friends, and family. His mother's heart swelled with affection for him, a sentiment she regretted not expressing more often. The void left by his absence was unbearable. The family was shattered, grappling with the senseless nature of their grief. His mother and father stood united in their devastation, a sorrow that seemed insurmountable. After 11 long hours, a man who owed money to the robbery victim reached out, seeking to discuss the shooting. The conversation began with casual pleasantries, but soon turned serious. The detective introduced himself, identifying the purpose of their meeting. The detective laid bare the connection to the shooting, revealing it had occurred next door to the suspect's cousin. The man explained where he had been the night prior, an alibi that involved his girlfriend. The questioning continued as they dissected his relationship to Benjamin's cousin. The exchange turned to monetary matters as the detective probed deeper. The man admitted to owing $80 for a previous transaction, a discrepancy that caught the detective's attention. The tension in the room began to rise as the man fumbled through his responses. With directness, the detective confronted him about his possible involvement in the murder. The man vehemently denied any connection, insisting he was merely a bystander. The detective pressed further, seeking clarity on the dynamics of the situation. As the interrogation unfolded, the man was asked to identify individuals in a video. He nervously provided a street name for a friend captured in the footage. A sense of urgency filled the room as the detective sought to connect the dots. The man's reluctance to divulge names hinted at deeper ties. The detective insisted on obtaining a DNA sample for comparison with evidence collected at the crime scene. The suspect hesitated, but ultimately complied, surrendering his DNA. The detective noted that the man had spent the night at his cousin's apartment. After gathering the necessary information, the detectives felt confident in their approach. It was time to delve deeper, uncovering the truth hidden beneath layers of deception. Through a series of interviews, the detectives pieced together the movements of the suspect on that fateful night. Detective Leatherman diligently followed up on the alibi provided by the cousin, confirming his whereabouts and aligning the pieces of the puzzle. With piercing intensity, the detective confronted the suspect, demanding to know if he had any involvement in the murder. The suspect's vehement denial only deepened the air of suspicion. The detective, clutching a video that contained unsettling evidence, pressed for the identity of the individual brandishing a gun. The suspect's reluctance to cooperate hinted at a web of connections waiting to be unraveled. The atmosphere thickened as the detective probed further, questioning the suspect about the nature of his connections. The suspect insisted he was no gangster, yet the shadows of doubt lingered. Under the harsh glare of the interrogation room, the detective demanded a DNA sample from the suspect. The gravity of the situation settled heavily in the air as the suspect hesitated, mumbling that he wasn't feeling well. As the investigation deepened, the suspect reluctantly provided his DNA, a crucial piece of the puzzle. The detectives felt a shift in the case as they prepared to cut him loose, believing he had been with the robbery victim all night. Through meticulous interviews, detectives traced the suspect's movements on the night of the crime. Leatherman diligently confirmed the cousin's alibi, piecing together the events that had unfolded. In the depths of the investigation, the detectives turned their attention to a man with a gun. They meticulously sifted through phone records, yet nothing emerged that definitively tied him to the crime. The absence of a smoking gun left them frustrated and puzzled. With no solid leads on the gunman, the team shifted their focus to surveillance video from the vicinity. As time slipped away, the detectives scrutinized the footage, desperately searching for any clue that could break the case wide open. The camera captured the southeast corner of the intersection at 100% Sheridan. The apartment complex loomed nearby, presenting a potential vantage point for the suspect. If he traversed this intersection, they hoped to catch a glimpse of him. According to a robbery victim, the suspect's getaway vehicle was a beige sedan, reminiscent of a Malibu. This revelation came after the tragic murder of Benjamin Montgomery. The detectives focused intently on a car that approached the camera, sensing it could be significant. While the vehicle didn't seem to be speeding, it appeared to be moving with purpose. They needed to analyze the footage further, capturing its details in a document for closer inspection. The color seemed to blur into a 6-point Grand Prix, a possibility they couldn't ignore. The image flickered uncertainly. It might have been a Toyota, but the truth remained elusive. In the words of Detective Jason White, this investigation was a marathon, not a sprint. Progress would come, but perhaps not today, or even this week. Months dragged on, and the detectives remained in pursuit of justice for 21-year-old Benjamin Montgomery, brutally gunned down during a home invasion. The murder would not fade from memory in the crucial first 48 hours. Tulsa Homicide was determined to solve it. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the suspects had targeted a friend of Benjamin's in a robbery attempt before the shooting. Interviews revealed that the friend was meeting a man who owed him money for marijuana, a detail that would complicate the case. The detectives interviewed the friend, who insisted he had been home at the time of the murder, providing little clarity. Their quest for surveillance footage of the suspect's vehicle yielded no results, leaving them with more questions than answers. Caught in a deadly crossfire, Benjamin found himself between the robbers and his friends inside the residence. In a desperate plea for assistance, the team turned to the public, urging anyone with information to come forward. Benjamin's bravery in that moment was commendable. As Detective Ronnie Leatherman reached out to the community, he noted the slow trickle of leads. Some individuals began to voice their suspicions, speculating that the incident might have been a drug deal gone awry. Yet, with every hopeful lead, the detectives found themselves encountering vague descriptions that led them nowhere. The frustration mounted as they returned to square one, grappling with the weight of unsolved violence. 9 months into the investigation, the lack of progress weighed heavily on the team. Determined to push forward, they decided to enlist the help of sketch artists from the Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation, hoping to breathe new life into the stagnant case. The victim of the botched robbery agreed to collaborate with a sketch artist. This individual, a small-time dealer, was visibly shaken and burdened by the events that transpired. The gravity of the situation was not lost on him. The interview was designed to guide him back to that fateful moment. It was a delicate cognitive exercise aimed at unearthing details that might aid the investigation. As he recounted his experience, it became evident that he was grappling with survivor's guilt. He replayed the events in his mind, questioning what he could have done differently to change the outcome. His emotions ran deep, and the detectives recognized the toll it was taking on him. They assured him of their support, standing just feet away as he shared his recollections. Despite having two potential suspects, the details from witnesses only pointed to one. The drawing that emerged was lifelike, yet lacked the specific characteristics the witness had described, leaving the detectives disheartened. In the pursuit of truth, the discrepancies in the drawing only added to their frustration. The investigation was far from over, and the quest for justice for Benjamin Montgomery continued relentlessly. As the detectives pressed on, each detail, each clue, and each witness account became a vital thread in the intricate tapestry of this tragic case. With hope still flickering, they remained committed to finding the answers that evaded them for so long. The artist's rendering of the suspect was strikingly lifelike. Yet, as the detective scrutinized the details, he noted the absence of the curls or twists that had been described, leaving him with more questions than answers. 107. Frustration etched across his face. The detective expressed his desire for answers. The search for the truth would not wane, as he vowed to persist in reaching out to witnesses and suspects alike. Months passed without a breakthrough in the case, a sense of urgency looming over the detectives. Then, a robbery victim stepped forward with a crucial tip about a suspect he had seen at a marijuana dispensary, igniting renewed hope for the investigation. One witness recalled the chilling moment he laid eyes on the suspect's face, a fleeting glimpse that offered hope. He uttered the name Leather, a lead that shimmered with potential given the man's connection to a local dispensary. Confusion clouded the witness's mind as he struggled to articulate his thoughts. The detective urged him to prioritize his well-being, sensing the weight of the situation bearing down on him. As the investigation unfolded, a detective prepared for a clandestine mission. The plan was to conduct surveillance on a dispensary located in Claremore, gathering crucial information on a suspect linked to the case. Margot was contacted, and the detective revealed the name of the business. The conversation turned to employment records. It was suggested that running a query on the business could uncover the names of employees, as they were required to report for unemployment purposes. A grateful acknowledgement followed. Margot had been tirelessly investigating their suspect. What she uncovered was alarming. A previous arrest for possession of a firearm during a felony, coupled with a history of drug distribution from September of the prior year. Plans were made to reach out for further details on the firearm. Confidence surged as the detective expressed certainty about identifying the man in question, prompting a decision to leave the premises. The following day, Margot's efforts bore fruit, revealing the type of gun involved. It was a 9mm, precisely what investigators were seeking, and surprise rippled through the team at this crucial development. The detectives planned to have the firearm tested against the casings recovered from Ben's case. They coordinated with the Claremore Police Department to collect the weapon, alongside a driver's license photo of the suspect. A key piece of evidence, a strand of hair, was revealed, matching descriptions from the scene. The sketch was scrutinized, revealing striking similarities, especially around the suspect's eyes and nose. The detectives noted the close resemblance of the suspect's nose. It became evident that he might reside 20 miles outside Tulsa, explaining the lack of leads. His connections were primarily in Claremore, suggesting a simple conversation could yield results. The strategy shifted towards arranging a lineup that included the suspect. It was a calculated move designed to test the witness's memory against the shadowy figure they recalled. A witness was identified as potentially recognizing someone from that fateful night. The detective continued to sift through evidence, presenting photographs to the witness, urging her to report any recognition. The witness hesitated, reflecting on the time that had passed. Almost 2 years had slipped by, and the urgency of the moment weighed heavily as she prepared to examine the images. With a sense of urgency, the detective pressed on. A witness reported that the events had transpired so quickly, leaving her only seconds to capture faces in her memory. Doubts began to creep in regarding the suspect's involvement. The detective emphasized the importance of thorough investigation, knowing that this man matched the description, yet remained cautious. The detective's confidence wavered as the conversation progressed. He introduced himself and his partner to the suspect, initiating a dialogue that would delve into the heart of the case. The gravity of the situation was laid bare. A murder had occurred at 100th and Sheridan in November of 2019, and the investigation was tied to marijuana. The suspect's name had surfaced through a witness, who recalled seeing a man resembling him at the scene. In the heart of the investigation, a crucial dialogue unfolded. The inquiry centered around Montgomery's whereabouts, prompting a request for visual evidence. A detective suggested the possibility of retrieving a photo from his phone, which could provide vital timestamps. With the tension rising, the detective posed a pivotal question, inquiring if Montgomery would be willing to provide a DNA sample. The stakes were high, and every detail counted in the pursuit of justice. A sense of confusion hung in the air as the request for DNA testing was made. The individual questioned the necessity of his DNA, pondering whether it would be compared to any evidence recovered from the victim's apartment. With a hint of appreciation, he acknowledged the request. Yet, unease seeped into his voice. He confessed to never having associated with people involved in such dark matters. As he expressed his discomfort, he cast doubt on the intentions of those collecting the samples. In a moment of grim realization, the investigators showed him a picture of Benjamin Montgomery. He quickly denied ever having seen the young man before. There was a sinking feeling that this lead would ultimately lead to another dead end. Now retired, he hoped that the current detectives would make progress where he could not. He felt strongly that the suspects hadn't fled to distant cities like Los Angeles or Dallas. Instead, he believed they remained hidden within the local community. With a determination that belied his retirement, he urged the detectives to pursue the case vigorously. His conviction was clear. The perpetrators were still nearby, lurking in the shadows. From the chaos of the struggle between Benjamin and one of his assailants, crucial DNA had been collected. The knowledge that if the suspects were convicted of a violent crime, their DNA would enter the national database known as CODIS filled him with cautious hope. He made it a point to periodically call the lab. Each time, he verified that Benjamin's DNA was still actively being processed. The unpredictable nature of such investigations meant that a breakthrough could come at any moment, whether in 5 years, 10 years, or even tomorrow. He longed for someone to step forward, whether through a Crime Stoppers tip or another means. The desire for closure echoed in his thoughts. The family deserved answers, a resolution to their grief. They needed to confront the individuals who had robbed them of their son. With a conviction that justice must be served, he envisioned a day when the family could speak about their loss and the impact it had on their lives. In an emotional plea, he wished to articulate what Benjamin meant to them and the void that had been left in his absence. The family deserved that much. As if sensing the heavy mood, a playful voice interrupted, asking a dog to come play. The memory of Benjamin and his beloved dog Oakley came flooding back. They would spend countless hours playing together, with Benjamin launching a frisbee from the porch. Their bond was unbreakable. There had been dreams of hunting and fishing trips, just the two of them. He had a message for all fathers. Never take moments for granted. Make those memories happen while you still can. Though he understood that the authorities were doing everything they could, he confessed a deep personal need for closure. The truth, however, would never fully heal the wounds left behind. Still, he clung to the hope that some semblance of closure could be achieved. Deep within his heart, he believed that someone must know the truth about what happened. In memory of Benjamin, they had fenced off the tree fort, transforming it into a makeshift memorial, a place where he had once played joyfully with his dog.